My name is Jackie, and I'll get a little bit more about myself in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about consistency in AI workflows, but I've changed it into corporate speak as well for strategic imperatives for optimizing AI workflows. So basically, the point being that there are a lot of reasons to optimize your workflows, and I'm going to get into them very in depth today. So what I'm going to be going over is who I am, an intro, and then talking about organization, which is a big part of getting consistency in AI, especially on longer projects, AI in marketing and business, a little bit about CG Pro, and then a Q&A. So I have been in the visual effects world for about 25 years. About 5 years ago, I started CG Pro, and so we're a consulting, training, and we teach classes, both publicly and privately. So basically, and I've also been an instructor, though lately I've been doing a lot more marketing, and so that's one of the big things I want to talk about today. And let's just start out at the very beginning. What is AI? And there are a lot of different types of AI. There are using them with various models, such as Nano Banana, VO3. There's tools such as Weavy, Comfy UI, so you have an entire workflow where you have multiple processes. And then there's integrations into tools we already know and love. Visually, you might have Photoshop, Nuke, Houdini. If you're talking about project management, you might use it with something like ClickUp. And basically what AI is you take your inputs, you put them through a black box, and you don't have any control of this black box. I mean, you do your best, but it's a little bit like magic, to be honest. And then the output is hopefully what you wanted. So basically, you take those inputs, you do a series of processes, and here's an example. You might put something into like Comfy UI, and then ask it to do some in-painting, some paint-outs, and then hopefully it gives you the right output that you were looking for. You change the robot from one robot to a different robot. Now you can also use LoRa's and prompts and Flux, and these are some of the inputs and processes that you can use. So first I'm going to talk about integrations, because integrations into the current tools that exist are incredibly powerful. Here's an example of Cesium, where you have a city in London, or you have London, and then you can take a plugin called ViewGen, which is an AI plugin, and use it with VO3 to get all sorts of different kinds of animations, and it does a really good job. And so basically, AI at the moment is a series. I like to think of it a little like cooking, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that works. And so it's not just like one workflow that works. And again, a little bit of that is magic, which is why I'm talking about that consistency. And another example of this is in Photoshop, where you can take Nano Banana and just create some various prompts, and it'll change it on the fly. And it's really good fun. I highly recommend you go into Photoshop and do this if you haven't already. So that's another integration that I love. Another one that's really coming into its own is having Comfy UI inside of Nuke, which as a compositor, I'm very excited about this one. And people, visual effects artists and post-production, they're using it now in their workflows. And so these tools have existed for a long time to have ultimate control, and so this allows you to have more of that ultimate control. So achieving organizational and scalable consistency. So basically, one of the things I want to go into briefly is pre-production, because I don't think that this one gets enough love. People have told me, why do you need consistency in pre-production? And let me just tell you that if you do not start out with good pre-production, especially on longer projects, maybe if you have a 30-second or 15-second commercial where you don't have, you're putting it out on social media, you don't need to be as organized. But if you have a longer project and you're not keeping organized, you're not going to be able to duplicate what you did on multiple shots, because you're not going to be able to find it. And we have seen this in multiple projects where there's just images all over the place and mood boards, and no one has kept track of it, and no one has even created an animatic so that you can actually plug it in and see whether it fits, see whether it's long enough, see whether it flows. So you want to make sure that your data is well named, thorough, easy to find. Create an animatic for your project, everybody. Just start out. You can use images if you want to, but at this point, and then start plugging in AI, and then like plus it up over time. So, and that way, when you take notes on things, you can always come back to the source for the process that you've used in order to retain that consistency. Now, the next thing that you can do is also, like, the same things that worked in post-production and production also are valued here. Like, use the same storage, use the same sharing, name your stuff well, use tools such as PureRef, Miro, ShotGrid. If you're working on a bigger project with a bigger team, you're definitely gonna want to consider ShotGrid. There's define mission critical naming conventions. Use workflow tools such as Comfy and Weavy. And tools like this, actually inside, you can leave yourself notes in a similar way that you can in Nuke or other tools. You can keep the original art connected and then connect it to other shots so that you can keep the consistency. So Weavy is a tool that we use a lot at CG Pro, and so I'm just like, if you want to help CG Pro out in a free way, there's the link for it. But you can basically, in implementation, you can use image to video will give you some consistency, but not perfect consistency. I have been using it a lot, and sometimes the faces, especially with faces and people, if you're trying to get the same consistency, it will change the look of their face. And so oftentimes using Allura is the best way to go. And the next thing I want to say is that AI is not a vibe button that you push. It is just not. And I know that it was promised to be that, but it isn't. It's sort of like, this is my example, it's like a high-speed vehicle. And you need the taste to steer it. You need skills to maintain it properly. And then you can run into the wall of mediocrity if you don't. So it just won't be what you wanted it to be. And to be honest, there's a lot to learn. So that's where we come in at CG Pro, offering consulting services and training, just because we care about the final output of things. And then another thing is early decisions affect revenue efficiency and level of risk. And risk in the example I just gave you, there's different kinds of risk. So mitigating risk is a really important thing early on in your project. And I will say AI is great when you're doing visual stuff. VFX is also great, and also it gives it an AI boost. And the hybrid of the two can give you a lot of optimal control and speed. So just giving an example of Pixotope and a test they did using AI where they didn't have a green screen in the background. And so AI is becoming really, really interesting in terms of what it can do. So I'm going to go into ways that you can use AI in marketing right now. So people are beginning to use it for pitch viz in their marketing material. So if you're an agency, you can pitch whatever it is that you're trying to go out into the world, or you can even do a pitch internally to your team for something that you think is important to go out into the world, and you can actually create it yourself very efficiently. And we're seeing this a lot with ad agencies and content, like companies doing pitch viz. And then you can also use it for asset creation. And this will be important when I get into the LED wall portion of what I'm going to discuss. But people are using AI a lot in social media content creation. And we are seeing it now more and more for Final Pixel content, as long as there's like copyright issues. But we are seeing it more and more in final content. And then finally, people are using recordings of elements and putting it into multiple languages with lip sync. So that's another way that people are utilizing AI in marketing and beyond. So let me go into business a little bit, into the enterprise world. So I'm seeing it a lot in digital twins. So it creates digital replicas to simulate reality, such as the bomb example that I gave earlier. And they're using it for real-time physics-compliant replicas of things like a jet engine, a city block, or a human heart. So there's a lot of broad reasons to be using AI. And digital twins of those things are really, really useful. So we've done a lot of training for AI using digital twins, and it's a really useful tool. And let's see, yeah, another example of something we've done is training simulations for autonomous driving vehicles. So that's another thing that you can do. LED walls are now having AI images screened onto them and then utilizing 2.5D for movement, or sometimes adding like a 3D AI elements in there to give some of that parallax that you're looking for. But it's just turning into, in a lot of cases, a much faster solution than like traditional tools such as Unreal Engine on the wall. And then another thing businesses are using are corporate videos with AI avatars. So they're basically using it to give information, again, to translate it into multiple languages and to go out to multiple clients around the world. And then finally, creating imagery for slides. I'm not going to lie, I used Nano Banana for this one, and I did not get rid of that, I'm being honest. And finally, I'm just going to go into some CG Pro case studies. So this is a tool that we used the Sony spatial reality display, which was basically, this is the actual car that was in the film, oh my gosh, I'm losing the name of the film. That one. So we took the actual car, we optimized it, we used it in Unreal Engine, and we put it into the spatial reality display, which required a lot of R&D. But the old tools are still useful. We were able to use the tool in a multi-purpose way to create spatial, to create VR. And so this is sort of my attempt to say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because these tools are still incredibly powerful and incredibly useful. You can, repurposing elements for VR, for all sorts of, in all sorts of ways is still a very important aspect. And what you can do is use AI to optimize these tools. And so therefore it becomes sort of a human-led AI tool. And I'm so proud to be able to offer this as an example, because I actually didn't think any of you guys were going to be here, because I thought you'd be at the NASA talk. So this is a NASA example. We did a training with them, and we helped them with their Artemis mission for training astronauts. And we put the moon into Unreal Engine and allowed them to walk around and see the world in Unreal Engine, and then they projected it onto an LED wall for training astronauts. So, and they used like their own physics simulations to make sure that it would feel similarly, but I thought that was a very cool use case. Another case study of something that we've done is using, we worked with a meditation teacher. Mental health is something that's really important to me, and so we created something that in Unreal Engine that's a VR experience, and also we repurposed the tools to go on into Times Square. So, so again, these tools are really useful, and what you can do is use them, in multiple ways, like the spice I was saying, like cooking a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So we are a Gold Unreal Authorized Training Center, and we do live training and consulting. We do it with individuals and companies. We offer services, development, training. We have public courses. And we have a content platform that I'm really proud of, which basically we use our high-quality video assets to train you on the answers to your questions so that you guys are able to get the answers faster. And you can engage with an AI assistant and do a smart search inside of there to find exactly what you're looking for. And just having a resource-efficient AI platform. So, so that's some of what we do at CG Pro. And let's see. Yes, talent sourcing. If you guys need talent, let me know. I have a lot of really talented people. We provide ongoing support and in a wide variety of industries. I think that is it. So I'll leave this up for a second, and then if you guys have any questions. Well, we do consulting, R&D. We actually create like the product itself if desired. So it's really a mix of what your individual needs are. Yeah. Yeah, they have taken pictures of the entire lunar landscape, so you can put an actual real replica of it into Unreal Engine, or make it in Houdini or that kind of thing. Yeah, I can't remember how much. I don't know if we have the entire moon, but we have like a very large chunk of it in Unreal Engine right now. Yeah. Yeah, but these days there's really amazing AI tools that like if you need it like far away, or like there's Strata, I can't think of all of them, but there's so many that are popping up that you can create your own 3D models. Meshi is one that's good inside of Hanyuan. Yeah, there's like so many 3D tools these days that really speed up the process, and they're just getting better and better. They kind of blow my mind. Yeah, so basically it's just part of the workflow and that's what I mean is like you want to be able to track all of this, because if you make this one in Meshi and you like Strata made this model better here, you want to be able to track where you did everything so that you can go back and fix it later. So yeah. Well, so there's various tools. There's ShotGrid. Is a traditional one. There's some interesting ways that you can use Notebook LM actually, because it's a RAG system that you can use. But like there's ClickUp, there's all sorts of different ways that you can do it, and it really depends on your needs. Because if you're developing something and you're like just trying to cut a bunch of stuff together and you're in a virtual production stage, oftentimes the shots are out of order and you don't know exactly what you want. You might want something like a RAG system to be able to like pull it up later and find it later through various searches and stuff like that. But traditionally, you would use something like ShotGrid, or like cheaper ones would be like an F-Track or that kind of thing. But we've used ClickUp. We used on smaller projects, you can use a tool like Notion. Mira boards help a lot. Oh, okay. I wish I could remember what LoRa stands for. I apologize at this minute. But basically what it is you can train a model. Like let's say you have your body and you want it to train AI so that every time you do something, yeah, that's specific, like a person, or environments are also just as valid in my humble opinion. You have a world or an environment and you want it to remain consistent, you can feed it a whole ton of images. And then you can use partially an existing model that's like let's say I had a slide with a person in a baseball field. Let's say it's in a baseball world. You feed it a bunch of baseball images and then a bunch of images of your face in different positions and that sort of thing. And then it helps keep the consistency. And so training these LoRa models isn't like the easiest thing, but once you do, it allows for a lot more, like oftentimes you get a lot better results. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and that would be actually a really good reason to develop a LoRa, because basically what that was going into Cesium, using a tool, an AI tool to change the lighting, and then bringing that into VO, and then allowing VO to do the animation. And so as you noticed with the inconsistencies, that would be a reason if you were trying to be really specific with a digital twin that you would want to develop LoRa's, because it just doesn't do a perfect job. Like it goes through the black box of magic, and then whether it works or not on the other side is, you just don't know. So Hopefully that helps.
I really like the comment about pre-production and how you have all your assets in order. I feel like developers and content creators. So any top of guys above from the software itself and that change management aspect to get people to get their head around these new setup.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that some of the tools that exist can be utilized, such as ShotGrid for long projects, but I do think that, as I was saying, I think really detailed notes into something like Notebook LM and like developing some tools on top of Notebook LM can be extremely useful because of, as I was saying, because of that RAG system, because you can, like, the more that you label your stuff, the more that you can find it later. And I've seen it do incredible things and create like mind maps. You can ask it things like, have I already created this scene? Is this inconsistent with what I was doing before? Like, here's the company policies. You know, does this answer the safety issue? And it can pick it all up for you. So there's tools such as Notebook LM that I find to be really powerful for that. So basically, what is happening right now is as budgets are restricting, they are finding that AI, if you basically when you're on an LED wall and you have, let's say you have a Dana dolly and you're just moving the camera back and forth and you're not moving it in a crazy way, you don't necessarily need a full-on 3D scene. And so what people are doing is they're developing in advance, getting approval on like the position of a camera, and they're rendering that out in AI. And then they take that, they put it into layers, and then they use a tool. There's like Nuke Stage now does it, and you can sort of like get it to round off just enough to create that parallax, which holds up for like 10 to 15 degrees. And so you can use that, you know, as just a much cheaper, faster way if you don't need to like do an entire production. And that, so we're seeing that a lot more with commercials and that sort of thing. Yeah, they're independently moving because what you do is you multiplane them and then you can add some shape to them and then you can move them around. And then some of the elements you can actually, as I was saying, like use strata or something to actually, or meshy to create a few 3D elements that move, that are in there and that actually give that actual parallax, and it just fools the eye enough.
How do you guys see moving, or what courses would you guys teach using generative AI? Would it be putting up 3D meshes generated in Meshy, or incorporating, you know, Comfy UI into Nuke? In what way do you guys see tailoring your public education towards that?
Well, right now we have our second cohort that's about to start of our AI for Filmmakers course. And right now it's 6 weeks. And we teach the fundamentals of Weavy, of Comfy, some of the various 3D tools, how to bring stuff into Unreal Engine, using Unreal Engine with various, like you can use 3D scenes to then plug into your AI. You can also do things like get 80% of the way there on your project with normal traditional 3D tools or filmmaking tools, and then feed all of that in as a LoRa to create the last 20% of the shots or that kind of thing. So let's say you forgot to get some insert shots or that kind of thing. You can like feed it all of the different shots that you had before, and then it might spit out those insert shots without needing to reshoot anything. So you know, it's powerful to look at both on the front end and on the back end. But yeah, so we teach how all of that works basically in a 6-week class with lots of lab time to answer like specific people's needs basically. So we have a pre-production class, and that's 1297, and we have the AI for Filmmakers 6-week live course is 1497. So hopefully we're trying to keep it affordable so that anybody can take it. So I have 4 minutes and 30 seconds, everybody. So answer your questions fast.
How did you get into the AI world? Did you see the potential?
Well, I think I did what a lot of people did because AI was a bad word a couple of years ago. And yeah, it may still be sort of a dirty word, but as a visual effects artist, I consider myself a technologist. And I believe that any new technology that comes along is something that I need to know about. So when VR hit in 2015, I was there developing VR apps. And when AI hit, I was like secretly studying it and learning it, and I just believe that you have to keep up with this technology as it happens. And now it'll be like a mix of different workflows and tools that will be developed off the back of what exists today, and maybe stuff we haven't even considered yet as well. So it's just doing our best to keep up with the technology. And by the way, we have a show that we do every couple of weeks that goes over all the latest technologies that have hit. It's good fun. It's called the CG Pro Show. So if you guys ever want to just like kick back while you're working and watch it, we go through, I think we went through, we're going through LTX2. We were going to go through it. We ran out of time, but like we went through Apple Gaussian splats, and we do a lot of work with Gaussian splats on the show and just kind of show people, what's possible. So. And if any of you guys want to be on the show or our podcast, and you guys think you'd be a good guest, come and find me as well. We're always looking for good people. But anyway, anything else?
That 3D model and the spatial, how long did it take to create that? How complex is it? How reusable is it?
For which one? Oh, that one, it is very reusable. It took several weeks to optimize it. I think we took it into Houdini, and we did a bunch of procedural things to lower the number of polys, and it's reusable now inside of Unreal Engine. Now, it wouldn't necessarily work in an untethered space, but in a tethered world with connected to a computer, you'd be able to see it in a VR simulation. So, but that was the hardest thing, was optimizing a car with that many polys for a film, into something that you could use, especially since it breaks apart and then comes back together again. Yeah. So. All right, well, if there's no other questions, I might, oh, okay.
How do you see the stigma of AI coming down to more of that educational materials introduced and more of that workflow as an asset? Like, you're not generating final pixels, you're generating a mesh and refining that. Integrate companies like with the NIC, they're still a handcrafted. How do you see the general stigma going away?
Well, what we tell everybody is that AI is here, whether you like it or not. And that none of us, it's been thrust upon us, and none of us have a choice. So we might as well learn it the best we can. And now that you guys all know that it's not just a button you push, but it's a series of systems, you can begin to see it as a human-led, centric process, and not something that's going to remove the human, at least in my mind, in many processes anytime soon. Because the way that I see it is the more human-centric you are at the beginning, the better your results are, and the more you let AI do all of your work at the beginning, the worse it's going to be, and the more mediocre. So you really need that human control from the very beginning. So, yeah. All right, I think it's time, guys. Thank you very much.